You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello everybody and welcome to the Friday Night Chat Show. We are so excited to be back in the hot seats, as it were, and with a brand new guest, who's got an incredible story and an amazing set of books. So we're looking forward to that conversation. Chris, how are you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. The week's been productive. I've been the admin for the show this week. I've been emailing people, getting some really good guests on. We're booked up till the end of November, some in December as well. So yeah, we're fully booked until the end of the year, and we're just trying to squeeze a few more really good guests in for people. Yeah,
it's one of those things that we've with over, we must be on 370 now interviews, and we've had guests back on once or twice, but we love having new guests on, like tonight's guest, and finding new guests as well. And what part of that is receiving emails from people, speaking to publishers, asking who they want for us. And what is really great is when people message us on social media or through email recommending guests, because that gives us a whole new perspective of conversation we might not have known about. So if you do have someone you want to see on this show, still, even though we are booked up, please do get those recommendations in, because it means that we might find someone we didn't really know about, or an emerging author we haven't seen yet. So that could be really crucial for us to get a really good guest on the show and help build their brand as an author as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really interesting because I get to look through all the requests, and we get loads. Like, we literally get sent requests every single day. And some of the authors that we've got coming on, obviously we've never had on before, and some of them write really interesting fiction. One of them today, she's coming on the day her book is released, and she writes fiction, which I can't remember how she described it, but basically she writes books about villains that get the girl but then stay villains. So it wasn't quite erotica, but it was in that ballpark. And I was like, we've never had anyone that's done this type of genre before. So I'm really excited to have that person on and chat about that sort of style of narration. So yeah, there's some interesting guests coming up, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously that all helps us with our own writing as well, all the tips we get from the show through natural conversation as well, and the tips that we do ask for. So it's a great place to learn as well as enjoy the show and the conversation. So yeah, it's good to have those guests coming in. As what's also great about this is how we support each other writing, and what Chris has been doing recently with my new crime fiction novel direction that I've gone in. He's been checking in with me, and having a check-in buddy is actually really good. So every other day when I've been writing, I get a message from Chris. How's it going? Have you been writing? And it's not the pressure that's there. It's just like, I want to be in an excited position to tell him, yes, I've done this and I've done that. So that's a bit of advice. If you know someone who's, even if they're not a writer, someone who's interested in what you're doing, get them to check in with you so you can give them updates, because it does work.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I'm interested in your crime fiction story for two reasons, really. One, I'm a reader, so I'm interested in it from that point of view, because it's a great start to a crime novel. It's something different that I've not read for a long time, so I'm excited about that. I love all the little clues, not necessarily clues, but sort of like, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Why is that happening? You create a lot of whys at the start of the novel, which is great. So I'm interested from a reader's point of view, but I'm also interested, obviously, and invested from a friend's point of view, because I want to see you at Harrogate Crime Writers Festival on a panel, and the only way that's going to happen is if you write this book. So I want to keep championing you, make sure you get there, and make sure that I'm the one taking the photos at the side going, yeah, he did it. He got the Crime Writers panel. So yeah, that's the aim, and that's the goal.
We go every year and we do interviews for other authors. Wouldn't it be amazing to see one of us sat on the seat being interviewed by one of the interviewers instead. I think that is a goal that we need to try and push for, and just as an experiment. Yeah, amazing.
Is that hashtag? What's it called at the minute? That make your dad proud or something? That I bet his dad's proud. That's what I'm going to put basically when I see you there. Like, obviously, I know I'm not your dad, but
yeah, that would be awkward.
For me. Yeah, he did it.
Yeah, well done, son. Thanks, Dad. Brilliant. Okay, let's get tonight's guest on and have a really good conversation. Please, if you do have questions, send them in throughout, or wait until the end where we've got our dedicated question and answer section. But we're happy to receive them throughout, so do that. And if you're in the chat with other authors, please say hello to each other. This is a community. We want you to get engaged with each other. Not like that, not marital, but just in community.
That would be great. Invite us to a wedding.
Yeah, you could get married. Okay. So, everybody, let's get ready. Tonight's on the Writing Community Chat Show, we are thrilled to welcome a guest whose storytelling has captured hearts around the world. Our guest is J.L. Witterick, an international best-selling author whose work has been translated into 10 languages. She first gained global recognition with her novel, My Mother's Secret, a powerful story of resilience and compassion based on true events. Now she's here to talk about her new young adult dystopian romance, You Can't Take the Truth, displayed above Chris's head, a bold and thought-provoking story about a society pacified by a dream-inducing drug, and the one teenage girl who chooses to fight back. I've lost myself. Yes, we will be diving into the emotional fire behind a new book, her incredible journey from a career in finance to becoming a globally recognized author, and how writing for her is a form of rebellion. So please give a warm welcome to J.L. Witterick. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for that really wonderful introduction. Thank you. I was like, that's me? That sounds really good.
You're welcome, although I did get lost in there for a second. How are you doing?
What's that?
How are you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. I'm just really looking forward to kind of being on your show and connecting with your community. It's just a real honor. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you for joining us. And looking forward to getting to know you and your story. So, yeah, I mean, first thing to note is how we'll talk about a lot of this, and obviously we try to be a bit more informal at the start of the show. But I'm just so mind blown at the direction of your novels, from your first novel, which is an amazing story,
historical fiction.
Yeah, and moving into now fantasy, dystopian fantasy. I've got so many questions about that, but let's rewind it all because I'm jumping ahead here. When you were in the world of finance and writing, at what point did you think, okay, I'm now going to transition, and what was the spark moment for you to decide to go down the author route?
I think it's a very valid question because they are completely different professions. You know, I was in the investment world. I actually invested around the world. My firm, I was one of the few women in Canada who founded an investment firm and was the president of it. And I just actually got the Million Mile Club thing from Air Canada because I flew so much. That's 40 times around the world. And they give you a little plane. I don't know, it's just silly. But anyway, and I interviewed companies all around the world. And then I go from that to, as you say, writing a novel, based on true events during the Second World War. And I think what happened to me can be relatable to anyone who finds himself in a place where they could not have, foreseen. It's just you make a decision, that decision leads to another decision, and then before you know it, you're in this life that you're in. And I saw a documentary that I found quite moving, quite inspirational. And so I said to myself, someone should write that into a novel. And then one day I just said, well, why don't you just do it? Because then it'll get done. And, we all have that voice that says, well, because you don't know how, like you just, this is ridiculous. But this is what I also say to myself. Anyone who is really good at what they do, at one point in time, they didn't know how to do it. Is that true? So absolutely. You can learn, anyone can learn. You just have to want it badly enough. And I wanted it badly enough, and it changed my life. I ended up, all my employees went to my partner, which is the largest bank in Canada. And so nobody was out of a job, which would have been hard for me to do. I couldn't do that, but that worked out. And so I embarked on a brand new career, and I've been a full-time author ever since. And
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't pay as well, I'll tell you that. But not everything is about, you know, what it pays. And I also think society rewards in a wacky way anyway, and you shouldn't judge anyone by what they're paid, because it makes no sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm very grateful that about that. I get to live two lives in one.
Amazing. Yeah, Anya said in the comments there, it's very true. Growth mindset allows people to find the belief in themselves, and I do think that is right. Yeah.
No, definitely. JL, where did that want turn into action then? And can you talk us through that process? Obviously, you were saying you always wanted to go into writing fiction.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a head of a company, having employees beneath you and working and relying on you to have that, and then go, do you know what? I really want to do this other thing. Like, how did you make that into action?
Well, you know, I'm not Celine Dion, but I did start in the investment career when I was quite young. So I had already been an investment person for 30 years. And I'd seen multiple market cycles. I'd seen the financial crisis. We came out of that, the best performing fund the following year. But during that crisis, it really, you know, it was like somebody punched me in the stomach, like really, really hard. And I thought, you know what, I've seen ups and downs, you know, and that markets are just that way. And I've been through so many. I just thought there really isn't anything more new that I'm ever going to learn. Like growth had already stopped. I'd already been through the best times, been through the worst times. And what I love about writing is that, I mean, sure, there's going to be people that don't like it, and I get that. You know, not everybody likes watermelon. I love watermelon, so I get it. But when I get emails from people all around the world telling me that my book brought them to tears, that one man said to me that he had lost his wife, and that reading my novel, it was a love story, like my second one, which actually I'm rewriting, made him kind of feel more connected to her and feel better. And I thought, wow, like I could never do that managing somebody's money. I mean, I was just making people more money, you know, who already had lots of money. So, well, that's not true. Pension funds, we did pension funds and foundations too. But when I write a story and I can touch people from all around the world, like I get letters from people from India. I get letters from people like schools do my books in Spain. And one teacher said that kids hid in the bathroom because they didn't want to stop reading the book that they were reading in class. I mean, there is no greater compliment than that for a writer, right? So I'm grateful. I never thought I would be a writer. My high school teacher, English, said that I should do that. But, you know, you guys are intimately familiar with the plight of authors. It's very difficult to make a living as a writer. And my parents were immigrants. We didn't have a lot of money. And I always thought when I was a kid, what can I do to help my family? What can I do, you know, financially that will be able to do that? And so writing was never, ever on the agenda of possibility. But thankfully, the universe smiled down on me and said, okay, you know, now you've had a career in the investment world, which I think pays people outsized amounts. And now you can do this. And not that I didn't like the investment industry, because it was fascinating, but now I get to do something that's driven from my heart, that I can touch people and really connect with people I would never meet otherwise. So I feel incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah. So, I don't know why my watch is making noises. My Mother's Secret obviously had amazing success and was translated into 10 languages. Did you, when you sort of saw that documentary and it resonated with you, but did you ever have any expectation that book would resonate so well with readers and get that sort of success?
I have to say it was a bit of a Forrest Gump moment, you know, when he was the only ship that didn't get destroyed, and so they got all that shrimp. And kind of a moment like that for me. I was hoping, of course, that it would be, you know, a book that would resonate with people, but I didn't realize it would just take off like it did. And sometimes, you know, it's just you just say thank you when it happens, because, you know, you can't see it coming. And people have asked me, you know, your books kind of are all over the place. Like you have a historical fiction, then you write a, you know, YA dystopian romance. What's that about? And the truth is, I don't write strategically. I am not an author that says, okay, and I didn't read the manual on how to be, successful as an author, which is you're supposed to stick to a genre, and then people will know what to expect. They go to McDonald's, they're gonna get that burger with fries, exactly tasting the same everywhere in the world. I write because I'm passionate about telling stories, and I write when I'm moved by a story. But my stories all do have a common link, and that is my characters are relatable, and my characters are someone that feel like your friend, and the stories are told in a very fast moving manner. So no matter what the story is, I hope to engage young people. That would be the commonality, but I don't, maybe I should just to be more successful, but I want to write at this stage of my life because it isn't, kind of wasn't a strategic decision, as more of a decision that was driven really by it felt like a message from the universe. This is time for you to do something different and something perhaps impactful. And so, yeah, it's hard to explain other than that, I guess.
But writing My Mother's Secret and You Can't Take the Truth is so very different. And with historical fiction, especially being on something as well documented as the Holocaust, was there a real difference in approach to sort of researching this? Because obviously you want to stick close enough to the truth, but make the story relatable and your characters build. So how much more difficult was one book to write to the other?
I don't think about writing. I try not to anyway. I think of anything as difficult. I think of it as, a puzzle to solve, and that I want to see, how the picture turns out when I fit all the pieces together. They require different kinds of research, but I think all fiction, from my point of view anyway, I think you do need to do a certain amount of research because it has to feel real. So in all my novels, even, You Can't Take the Truth, the location is set in Orlando. I have been to Orlando. The location is set in a neighborhood that I have been to, that I have stayed at. And so, and the parks there and the lakes there, I've been through them. So the story, to me, it doesn't matter, what kind of story you're telling. I think it feels more authentic if you've actually done the research in terms of the bones of it feel real. I mean, the story may be, obviously it's a dystopian story, but I think the basis of it, the foundation of it, has to feel real, and the characters need to feel real. And I think that the key to having the reader stay with you through an entire novel is that they have to love your characters. They have to love the people or care about enough that they want to know what happens to them. And so it doesn't matter what story you tell. If someone feels connected to your character, they're going to be interested in what happens.
Yeah. So with that in mind, are you going to strategically place your next story somewhere really nice to go research?
Well, what's very interesting is I was born in Taiwan. But I was born in Taiwan at a time when Taiwan was really, really poor. Like, I slept on cement. And that's why I say the back of my head is flat. You want to see the back of my head? Because, when you're a child and your head is soft, that's what happens, And so now Taiwan is obviously no longer poor. It's industrialized. It has Taiwan Semiconductor. Every electronic product in the world probably has their chip in it. Something like 80% of products do. But of course, it's a political powder keg right now, right? And the fear, of course, that China will show some aggression towards that island. And so with that in mind, I was approached by a major publisher to see if I could write a novel, a fictional novel, but perhaps a little bit of historical fiction in there, based in Taiwan, because they believe that there's a lot of people who would like to know more about Taiwan, but not in a dry way, and so I thought, well, I don't write just because someone tells me they think they can sell something, like as I said that earlier, right? But the universe just operates to me in a weirdly weird way, because then my mom said to me, well, my girlfriend just told me this crazy story about her friend, and you wouldn't believe what happened to her. And she was, in Taiwan, and her friend was this baby What it was the mother jumped off a cliff trying to kill herself and her baby. But the baby miraculously survives. And the baby is my mother's friend's friend kind of thing. And she's one of the most successful women in Canada. So I thought, wow, that's a crazy story. Like, this baby survives the rapids, the rocks. Like, it's insane, right? You would never expect that to happen. And people don't realize that Taiwan was occupied by Japan for 50 years prior to the Second World War. And so this woman had fallen in love with a Japanese man. And when he had to go back after the war, she was obviously treated quite badly. I mean, women looked the other way when she walked down the street and then spat at her, stuff like that. So she decided to kill herself. And I thought, wow, I mean, that story is going to take Taiwan from the end of the Second World War to now, and with this woman, and, you know, from when she's a baby to, so I thought, yeah, I'd like to tell that story. I think that'd be a cool story. So I call the novel Stronger, because of course, what doesn't kill you, right? And so that's my novel. I have about 80% done and excited about it. So that's what I mean by, I didn't expect to write that. It just happened. And that's kind of, that's I just listen to the universe. I say, well, you know, what do you want me to do now? I'll do it.
Yeah. Love that. JL, you seem like an incredibly driven person. So a lot of the people that we get on the show and that watch the show are inspirational. Like, they want to be writers. They love getting tips and advice. So as somebody who's really driven, what 3 tips would you give to somebody who wants to become a writer?
Okay. Well, first of all, good for you if you want to be a writer, because I think that when you write something, it is a legacy that you leave to the world. You know, I'm hoping that people will read my novels even after I'm gone, and that who I am is a lot of who I am is in my novels, and that I continues to connect with people. So good for you if you want to be a writer. I would say I have one glaring tip. And that is, I didn't make this up. It was a quote by Ernest Hemingway, and that is, everyone's first draft is shit. Okay. And the reason why that is so powerful is that most people don't realize that. Okay. So most people go, oh, you know, I want to write a book. I got this great story in my head. I want to share it. And they spend all this time writing, you know, like every weekend, after work, they're working on it and they're passionate about it. And they give so much of themselves, because that's what a writer does, right? Like, you are giving of yourself. It's so intimate when you write. And so then you finish it, and then you read the first draft and you go, holy crap. Like, this isn't any good. Like, oh my God, like, I wasted all that time. This is shit, right? Like, no one's going to read this. And then you just chuck it, right? You just throw it in that garbage can. And you don't realize that, you know, you have to polish statues. Like, they don't shine on their own. And no one, I don't care who it is, no one does it right the first draft. It just doesn't. You know, even when you're writing an email, if you just wait till next morning to read it, you're going to make it better, right? Even though it looks perfect the night before. So I try to do that in an important email. I always say, okay, I know you think it's great, but trust me, you know, just read it in the morning. And sure enough, so it's a little something that I want to change or whatever, right? It's the same thing. Your first draft is just a first draft. That's why they call it the first draft. And so cut yourself a little slack and say that to yourself. I can make it better, and don't give up. That is the biggest advice I have for writers.
Yeah. I'm really interested as well about the transition that you made from obviously working every single day, you know, managing loads of people, to having that space where you're very much on your own. You're having to manage your words in terms of, like, talk us through the sort of day to day and what it was like in terms of, like, word counts, all that sort of the bones writing.
Yeah, sure. So it's very interesting and very perceptive of you to say that, because when I was running a company, we had 2 companies around the world come visit us every day. So I was meeting with the presidents of companies, CFOs of companies all around the world, and I was going to meetings. You know, I was really engaged with quite a number of people, and then you go to writing, and you're like in a room by yourself, right? Like, you're just, you know. And I suffered from a little bit of, I wouldn't say, I'm not sure if depression is too strong of a word, but I didn't understand why. I was like, after a while, I was just starting to feel a little down. I was like saying to my best friend, I go, I don't know what's going on with me. Like, I'm an upbeat, positive person, and I'm not feeling like myself. And then she said, well, it's because you're not talking to anybody. You're not like seeing anybody. You used to see like a ton of people every single day. And now you're like, because writing by its very nature is a very solitary endeavor. Like you are in your head and you are just trying to get the words arranged in a certain way that conveys what your ideas are and the emotions and that, whatever you want to convey. And so I thought, oh my gosh, she's right. Like I'm suffering with withdrawal of socialization that as a writer, you do. And so she said, why don't you just like schedule lunches with people? So like you go and have lunch with somebody or go for a walk with somebody, and then you can go back to, and I don't have an office that I write, and I just like to write at the kitchen table because I kind of like to go get my snacks and stuff like that when I'm writing. And so after I did that, I was so much happier. And so I think you have to understand the level of socialization you need, because as a writer, you can become quite a recluse pretty quick.
I think that really relates to the understanding that life experience can play a massive part in writing as well. People do go down the academic route, but that knowledge of how that social withdrawal, how it works from personal experience, can really play well into writing a character who might go through some sort of similar situation. So I think that's
true.
Yeah,
that is true. And so all my characters actually have a little piece of someone I've seen or met or know, or obviously myself in there and my family. So, but they're fictional characters, and it makes them more real when you can draw from authentic people or real people, and I try to do that in all my writing. And
one of the things I've heard you mention a couple of times is the universe. And I'm going to tie in a question about like spirituality and things like that. Like how much does it impact your writing and your mental health? Obviously, you've talked a little bit about potentially being in depression and social withdrawal.
Yes.
Like in those moments, do you just wait for something to happen and hope that the universe provides an answer, or you try?
Well, I have this amazing connection with music. I love, there's music, there's songs that I wrote in this latest novel, and the lyrics are there, and the audiobook will have the songs, although it's not completed yet, the audiobook. But so whenever I write, I listen to music. I just, and if I want to write a moving passage, I listen to music that's moving, and the music somehow passes through me and into the words. It's a certain flow that I don't know, that I've always found work for me. And I think the reason why I say the universe is because I am a very spiritual person, and I have found that whenever I believe that I believe that positivity actually is the opposite of a battery. Positivity attracts positivity. So I try to stay positive, and whenever things don't go my way, I always try to ask myself now, how is the universe trying to help me? Like, is there something that I'm going to get from this or learn from this, or that's going to be useful later on? And I always think a little bit of hardship, kind of like perhaps a little vaccination, so that, when that big thing comes along, you don't die. I don't know. But I do find that whenever I need help, it shows up. It shows up in people I don't know calling me and saying, hey, or it just shows up that in ways that I can't possibly imagine. And so I can't explain it, except that I believe that there's this energy, this force that will help you if you ask for it. And if you are a good person too, I think you need to be, that way. A fluky thing that happens to me, and I'll share it, but it's really kind of fluky and maybe kind of weird too, is I will read a manuscript that I've completed over and over and over again. Like I mentioned to you, the first draft, like I will, before it goes to the editor, I will like just basically read that thing 100 times. Like it's just crazy. Just read over and just make sure that every word is exactly the way it should be, or every word is exactly the word that I want to convey that message. And when I do read my manuscript over, as I mentioned before, I listen to music. Oftentimes, as I'm reading a word, that word will come up in the song that I'm listening to. Like it is insane. Like, because I don't pick easy words. I mean, I don't count words like the, and whatever. I choose, like I'm talking about words that don't usually come up in a song. Like, for example, I'm reading the word earth. And just as I'm reading the word earth, I hear Carole King, I feel the earth, and it's the exact same. I couldn't time it any better if I call the radio station and say, play this song when I'm reading my manuscript. I couldn't do it. And there's words like freight train. Like freight train, you never hear in a song. But Bruce Springsteen, like a freight train through my mind. I'm reading the word freight train, and I hear the word song freight train. Like I scream when that happens. My husband says, "Oh, again, huh?" It happens to me like a couple of times a night. So I explain that. I can't.
Oh, amazing. And literally, Halo just replied, "Oh my God, that happens to me all the time. Word alignment."
Really?
Isn't that incredible?
Happens to you?
Okay,
Happens
clearly,
to Halo.
yeah.
Maybe it's just amazing authors that happens to, because Halo. Well, so maybe that's just some sort of weird thing that you've got going on with words in the universe.
I'm gonna have to try this. So I'm gonna have to go through my draft and put some music on, and I'm gonna see if that works this weekend, and I'll let you know if it does, because Halo and you have intrigued me to this right now.
All right. Well, I have to say it happens for me most of the time, but not all the time. So it doesn't happen to you like the first time. You know.
We'll see. I might not be worthy enough, but we'll give it a go. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to play a little trailer about the Amazon KDP advert. So if you're an indie author that has a book ready to go, you pay attention to this little trailer. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about You Can't Take the Truth. And hopefully JL will give us a nice little breakdown of what that book's about, and we'll get some questions in from it. So here you go. Here's our trailer for our Kindle Storyteller Award.
Hey writers, what if Hit and Publish could earn you a massive £20,000?
Oh, yeah, imagine. Well, you don't need to imagine, because that's exactly what's on offer with Amazon's Kindle Storyteller Award 2025. This amazing literary prize is back for its 9th year, and it's open to anyone who self-publishes a book via Kindle Direct Publishing in any genre.
Any genre. Yeah, whether you've written your first or your 10th novel, it doesn't matter. If it's unpublished and written in English, then you can enter that award with a chance of winning.
Yeah, and it's really easy to enter. So just publish your book through Kindle Direct Publishing between the 1st of May and the 31st of August, and make sure it's enrolled in KDP Select.
Yep, I think you'd be absolutely mad not to, as a £20,000 prize would help any author boost their career massively. And our previous guest and last year's winner, JD Kirk, said that it took his career to the next level after winning that award and taking it home.
Yeah, and it did. These books are everywhere. So in order to enter, head to amazon.co.uk/storyteller to find out more. The Kindle Storyteller Award is open now. So publish, enter, and get your story out there.
Yeah, we'll support you all the way. You know we will do that. So we'll leave you with this. Good luck. The WCCS, together as one, we get it done.
So there you have it. It's simple as putting a keyword into your manuscript as you upload it to the keyword section in Amazon KDP. It's that easy to enter, and it could be a massive life-changing opportunity for you. So please do enter. Okay, so JL, please, can you let everyone know what You Can't Take the Truth is all about?
I think it's really about the transformational power of love. It's set in a dystopian, world where people are wanting to just rush home to go to sleep because they can be whoever they want. They have this perfect life, except of course, their normal life can't compare, and society falls apart because who wants to be the teller when you're the president of the bank at night, right? When you sleep, and so. But that is really just the backdrop. The story is about how being loved and loving someone truly, how that gives you strength and makes you brave in a way that you could never possibly have imagined. So my main character is a girl whose parents have passed away, and she lives with an aunt who doesn't want her, and a cousin who's quite nasty to her, and she's really bright. She's insecure though, because when you're not loved, even if you're this amazing person, you have self-doubt because you don't have any affirmation of who you are. And so until she meets someone who truly loves her, she doesn't discover who she is. And when she does, she's just this amazing, powerful person that you can't stop. And it also, I think, is a reflection on my own ideals and beliefs. And I guess I'm a romantic at heart, because I do believe that, and I have this in the book, that life only makes sense with love. And that is really the major theme of the book. And there's multiple love stories in the book, in terms of layering of different people who have loved and lost, and her own parents, and her own story about loving someone so much that she's willing to help him commit a crime, basically try to bring down the truth, and because they believe that the world is falling apart given this drug.
Yeah. Could you talk to us then about the drug state, dreamlike state that the drug induces, and what kind of inspiration was there to come up with this sort of idea?
Well, it came up in a conversation that I had with a friend of mine who was in the advertising agency, in an ad agency. He said, Jenny, I'm not going to have a job in a couple of years because no one's going to be watching ads on TV commercials anymore. Everything is, going to be virtual, social media, all these things. And he said, the real world could be something in the future that is not as real as the virtual world, because people might enjoy being kind of, wearing these glasses and living and traveling to Iceland because you can never afford to get on that plane and live in and go to the hotel, but you can put on these goggles and feel like you're in Iceland. So I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. If we're headed there, what if I wrote a story about, a society that's already there, and how would we deal with that, and what would happen, and that kind of those questions morphed into the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JL, you hit me on so many levels there, because you said that you're a bit of a hopeless romantic, which I definitely am. You talked about the transformation of love, which again I completely agree with. But my question for this then is, how do you write love in a convincing way in a novel? Because if love is a feeling that you get with somebody,
so true.
How do you get it onto the paper?
It's so true. And I'm going to say that you have to have loved deeply, and you have to have had your heart broken, both of which have happened to me. So I think also that you need, sorry about Bill here. I think you also need to show sacrifice, because you don't know how much someone loves you until they have to sacrifice something that's important to them. So as an author, how am I going to tell you that boy loves girl or girl loves boy? Well, boy has to give up something that is really critical or important to him for you to know, yeah, he really loves her. Like Romeo and Juliet, they rebel against their families, but at the end, he kills himself. And I hate that ending, by the way. Like, I would rewrite Romeo and Juliet if I could, because I like happy endings. But I think that you have to see sacrifice, because that is the only way that someone truly loves you. And in real life too, if I don't know, if there's only one business class seat and he says, well, I'll see you when we get there, versus why don't you take it, sweetie? And that's not a huge sacrifice versus, let's say, in a war zone and you've got an apple left and you say you have the apple, kind of thing. That I don't have to tell you this person loves this other person. You know that they do because of their actions. And oftentimes I think it's important that sometimes words don't align with actions so that the reader can figure it out for themselves. So, I can always also do scenes where someone, professes their love and then they do something that you go, yeah, I don't think so. Like you do in real life. Or someone is quiet about their feelings, but they demonstrate how they feel about you through their actions. And that, to me, in real life is what you should really believe.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Romeo and Juliet, because I always see Romeo as like somebody who loves the idea of love, but is more in lust rather than love.
I know.
So that's why I was asking. I was asking for the distinction in terms of how do you create that love on a page between two people.
I know. That is true. That is true. In fact, someone I know, I won't say who, someone I know said to me, if Romeo and Juliet got married, they would have got divorced because their families would get along, and there'd be no family dinners, and they'd be, and they get
true.
tired of each other. And I was like, geez, you know, and then of course he got divorced. So I knew that like, so it was, he was talking about himself. And a lot of times people say stuff like that. They're talking about their own situation, right? Coded. It's like I have a friend who's, you know, and that's them. But you know, I suppose in some ways, perhaps true love is idealistic, but I want to believe in it. I want to believe in that ideal. And so, sorry, that's my dog. He wants to believe in it too, apparently.
I agree.
Yeah, go Freddie. And so I write true love into my stories. I want to believe in it.
Yeah, I agree. I would love, though, on that topic, to see Romeo and Juliet at 30, 40 years old, just how panned out. Like, what is that like?
Well, you know, I think once they have the grandkids, the families get together, you know, it's like, okay, let's not have a feud anymore.
Yeah.
You could write that, though, Chris, right? Isn't that like, we're talking about the timing threshold that's surely over now?
Yeah, I don't
know.
Yeah,
I could definitely write that.
I'm not sure. There might be like copyright issues with Shakespeare. You know,
I'm sure Shakespeare was fine. You know, yeah, maybe I will write that.
Yeah, you go
I think
for
you should. Yeah, that would be brilliant. It might even be out there. We'll have to have a look. So yeah, the novel's described as a young adult dystopian novel with heavy themes of like a crumbling society. And then how do you manage painting that picture whilst also having that sort of love story between Florence and Dey?
Yeah. Well, the entire novel is really appearance versus reality. You know, the whole thing about, you know, reality is your dreams feel more real than your real life because it's more, you know, you have apparently how we remember things is by key moments. Like if you think about your own life and what you don't remember in all slow motion, brushing your teeth. You remember key moments that were, you know, were impactful. And so people, when they have these dreams, they have these they have these great, and then they wake up and they go to work and it's like a very blah, blah experience, right? So it's pure, what's real and what isn't real. And so the characters in the story, the same thing, like people you think are evil, they're actually not bad. They're actually good people. And people you think are good, perhaps, are actually not as good as you think, or they have undercurrents to them. So the whole thing is tied together with that common theme of appearance versus reality. And what makes it all stick together is love, is the relationships that people have with each other and the love they have for each other. And then you realize through the entire novel that is the one true thing that actually is the anchor that keeps that ship from drifting afar. And so Flo's relationship with Dey is the one thing that is the North Star, is the one thing that, and you know, I always I came up with this, I don't know how, but you know, they're not allowed to talk to each other at one point in the story, but they squeeze, you know, they hold each other's hands, they squeeze it 3 times for I love you. And so I you know, I love that imagery because it is what gets them through this crazy time and being persecuted. And so I think that it isn't as one or the other. It is actually the theme of love and the strength that it gives you, and the courage it gives you, and the transformative power it gives you is the undercurrent that basically ties the entire story together, even though it's, you know, appearances, reality throughout the entire novel. I have her say, you know, I am not a gardener by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that a tree, a flower, a bush, a single blade of grass grows differently depending on the soil, the water, and the sun it is given. And to me, that is love. The water, the soil, the sun. It is friends, family, people that care about you, that give you love, that make you healthy, that make you vibrant. And without that, even though this you know, little seedling is amazing, it's not going to flourish without those things. And so that's how I compare love to what it can do for someone through the entire story.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you go on, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, we've got like 15 minutes left. People, if you're watching, send your questions in, because the last part of the show is community questions. And I do have a question actually based on what you just talked about.
Sure.
So again, the universe keeps cropping up. But what I was going to say was, what's the difference between young adult and adult? Because this does sound like a universal message about love. So
Yes.
what are the sort of differences when writing a young adult novel to one that is aimed at an adult audience?
Well, I'm just actually thrilled that you asked that question because I think it's really relevant today. The statistics show that a lot of adults are actually reading young adult books because they move quicker, And for example, Hunger Games was a crossover where it started out as a YA young adult book, but adults read it. And my first novel was written for young adults, but then we had people, all ages read it. People over 70, 80 years old read it and loved it. So it became a novel that, again, was a crossover, that people of all ages like to read it. So the reason why my books tend to be classified as YA, even though I think the subject matter is more than YA, is that I write in a way, I hope anyway, I write in a way that moves quickly and that captivates. Because if I'm going after that YA audience, their attention span is very, very short. And I think part of it is because my own attention span is very short. Like when I'm reading a novel, if the description just goes on and on about the shade of red of her dress, I'm like, come on, let's move this along, right? And so I can't handle that myself. So I'm definitely not going to write that way. So my belief is that you don't need to focus on what someone looks like, because I think what someone looks like is incidental. I hopefully, want people not to judge me based on what I look like. I want them to know me for who I am, for how I think, what my beliefs are, what my values are, what I think is important. Like, I want you to know me for that. Not for, the color of my hair, or my eyes, or whatever I'm wearing, So in my novels, I don't focus on any of that. I focus on who the people are at the core. And so there's very little description. There's more plot moving along. And I've had people, I have my hair, I just my own hair today, but I do have a hairdresser I go to for special events. And she said to me, Jenny, I just finished grade school. I didn't even go to high school. I started doing hair and I just never stopped, and she's very good. And I'm not sure going to high school would have made her a better hairdresser, so it was fine. And she said, your novel was the first book I ever read and I loved it. And I said, wow, that's a huge compliment. So to me, big ideas don't need big words. In fact, to me, simplicity is the best, but you need to convey strong messages with the right words. I don't mean, just dumb it down. That's not what I mean at all. But I mean, weren't the best teachers in school the ones that could take a complex idea and make you understand it because they explained it so well? So that's what I want to do. I want to make my stories with stories that anybody can read, anybody can understand. And I've had people who English is not their first language, and they've been able to enjoy the story. And they said that it was the first novel that they could, because they had a hard time reading literature because their English was not that good. So I'm really proud when I hear things like that, because that is the objective. I want to reach people, and I want to reach them in a way that is friendly and accessible, and that moves along quickly. And I think from the feedback that I've received, that I think I've been able to do that. And that is one thing that all my books have in common. So yeah, YA, but also adult, kind of like Shrek. You can watch it on different levels, right? Yeah.
Great. Lots of onions, layers.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, one more question before we move on. So if you do have questions, please send them in. If you could cast the main characters for a film adaptation of your book, if that was to happen for Florence and Dey, do you have any idea who you would cast?
Well, I'm crazy about Jennifer Lawrence. Like, I just think she's so talented. And I read The Hunger Games, all the series, and I loved it. And I just thought she's going to be tough to find someone who can play Katniss, well, but she did it. She nailed it. And so she'd be perfect to play Flo, I think. Of course, I don't think we could afford her. So that's kind of like one of those, wishful thinking things. And Dey, Dey's just this like dream guy that every girl wants, so I don't know. A younger version of Brad Pitt would probably be good, but I don't know what the latest heartthrob is, because I'm not that age anymore.
I'm sure someone can let us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. That could happen.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
You don't know.
Brilliant.
The universe, you never know.
Yeah,
That's true.
certainly. Okay, we've got a question from Anya that did come in a little minute or two ago. She said, "Is the book out in the US yet?" It sounds great.
It is. It's available on Amazon in the US.
Oh, there you go. Please do pick that up.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start you off with our staple questions then. We've got 10 minutes left. This should time it nicely. If you could take, you kind of touched on an ending already that you didn't like. So I'll ask that question to start with. If you could take the ending of anything, whether it be a TV show, a movie, or a novel, and change the ending, what ending will you change and why?
Okay, so yeah, we already did Romeo and Juliet, so I'm going to do a different one. I would say Forrest Gump, because that's one of my favorite movies. I mean, I cried so hard the first time I saw Forrest Gump that I thought someone's going to call 911. I mean, I was like, oh, like she can't breathe. She's like, the cancer. But I mean, it just touched me so much because, I mean, I'm J.L. Witterick, but, people call me Jenny. And of course, Jenny is,
Jenny.
the most beautiful, name in the world, Jenny, right? I mean, I think I know all the lines. I've watched that movie so many times. I didn't want her to die at the end. I didn't want him to be by himself. He'd been through so much on his own. I understand that it's more poignant that he has to raise a kid on his own, little Forrest, but I thought it would have been nice if she didn't have to die. Maybe she got sick and then she got better, like let's do something like that. But no, that's the one thing I would change. I was really sad that she passed away. And mostly I think when someone dies, it's actually in some ways worse for the person that didn't die, right? Because they have to live without that person. And so I felt sorry for him. He'd already, been on his own almost all his life. And he had waited for her for so long, and then she comes back and then she dies. So it's like, no.
You might say the same film, but because you've said you're a hopeless romantic, because you said you believe in love, what's the best reception of love that you've ever seen on film?
Oh, wow. The best. Well, I guess it really is Forrest Gump, because he loves her so unconditionally. I mean, she leaves him, he still loves her. He comes to see her, she tells him to get lost, he still loves her. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing to be loved that way? And does someone, have to be not, so Forrest Gump is portrayed as a very simplistic man, right? Does someone have to be like that to love like that? I mean, I wish it wasn't true. But yes, I mean, like I just thought, to have someone love you that much, wouldn't that be heavenly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good argument. It is still La La Land, but it's a good argument.
Yeah.
It's not, Chris. Anyway.
I suppose Braveheart, you wouldn't slaughter that guy because they killed his girlfriend,
City of Angels.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
City of Angels with Nick Cage.
Some questions, because it is La La Land, but there is a question. So, does it matter if people prefer their constructed realities or believe constructed realities are real? I'm thinking Don Quixote.
So run that by me again. Wow, that's a question.
So, you won't be able to see that, will you?
My glasses on, yeah.
There we go. Does it matter if people prefer their constructed realities or believe constructed realities are real? I'm thinking Don Quixote.
Wow, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very deep question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. So that's like, okay. The reason why I think it matters if people prefer their constructed realities is that it can distort your view of your own life, your own reality. Okay, so in the novel itself, for example, the kids don't really train that hard with their coach because they would experience their championships in their dreams. So, it's kind of hard to train and try to win the championships when you've already experienced that. And so people aren't their best. They don't strive to be the best version of themselves, because the best version of themselves is already attainable without any effort while they sleep. So in the novel, perfectly beautiful women throw themselves, in front of subway cars, because when they get up in the morning and they look in the mirror, like they're not the supermodel looking back at them and they're disappointed they can't handle it, or people get to eat these beautiful meals in their dreams, you know, in 5-star restaurants that they could never afford, and you know, they're having like canned soup or something at night, and they're like, no, I can't take this anymore. And so suicide rates are quite high in the novel, from people who are unable to cope with their real lives. And I think that would happen. I think if your real life was so amazing, it would be very difficult. It'd be drudgery. It would be almost like a living hell if you know, you had to do something that you didn't want to do just to pay your mortgage. And I mean, maybe it's better not to know that you have this other life, and maybe because you don't have this other life, you'll strive to make your existing life move in the direction that would make you happier, right? Instead of just saying, you know, just giving up. I don't know the answer. And I've asked people, would you take the truth if you had it, in book clubs that I do, and I get a range of answers. I get, no, I would never take the truth. And some people say, no, maybe once in a while, you know. And some people say, yeah, I would take that. It sounds good to me, and I'd be able to handle my real life. I'd be okay. So it's a different answer for anyone, and the book doesn't tell you what the right thing is. No, it's up to you to decide.
Yeah, Anya's made a really good comment about that answer, and Halo's got a really good question as well. So Anya said about the answer, this does make sense, JL. So in essence, the constructed realities are a form of self-harm in this context, which again is, I think, a really interesting point.
That's a really interesting point for sure. I mean, is this person an author as well? Like, who's asking the question? Because it sounds like it is somebody who's
a historical fantasy author as well. Yeah,
a bit of a deep thinker. Thank you so much for dialing in and asking those questions. I think, you know, there's always flaws that we see in ourselves that other people may not see, but we accentuate them, and so in our dreams we can be the perfect version of ourselves, and that will just add to the dissatisfaction of you know, your kind of your waking day. And I think that it would be very harmful. Like, I don't think it's going to give anything away. But in the novel, Florence, and her name is shortened to Flo by her boyfriend later on, she loses her mother because her mother and her father had a relationship, I say, that eludes most people. They were so much in love. Like, he rubbed her feet at the end of the day. She was a nurse, and make her tea before she went to work. And he just loved her so much, and she loved him. And so I say, when he passed away, it was, for her mother, it was like, you know, they were, her and her mother and her father were like a pair of well-worn shoes, you know, only good together. And without him, it was like walking the earth barefoot, you know, the pebble and the jagged stones, everything, just making it so difficult to get through life. So her mother ends up taking, you know, a bunch of sleeping pills and the truth so that she can be with her husband forever. And she leaves her child to do that. And so which is why Flo grows up hating her mother and hating the truth. Because she says, what kind of mother would do that, right? But her mother could not help herself. It's like when people who are an alcoholic or they're suffering from depression, you're like, come on, like, just pick yourself up. But it is not as easy as you think. And her mother just tried to hang on for her daughter, but she just couldn't. She's, you know, she just wanted to be with her husband so badly. And every night she was with him in the dreams, right, when she took the truth. So finally, she just you know, gave in and took a, you know, bottle of sleeping pills so she would never have to wake up. And so that is the extreme, right? That's the extreme of someone who can't cope with their waking life or their real life. And so, and that is why Flo goes through life hating the truth and hating her mother until she herself meets someone who she loves that much. Then she is able to understand her mother. Then she is able to forgive her, because she understands now that it wasn't about her. It wasn't about leaving her. All her life she thought, oh, I'm not good enough. That's why my mother didn't stay. And people, apparently, children of parents who have committed, or just anybody who's lost someone through suicide, they always think it was me. You know, if I'd been better, if I'd been whatever, they wouldn't have. No, it's never about you. It's really about them. And so this story is in that way. She realizes that, you know, she doesn't have to blame herself anymore. She doesn't have to feel guilty, because there's nothing she could have done. Her mother just wanted to be with her father.
Yeah, beautiful metaphor there about the shoes. Love that. Halo's question is, what was the most difficult scene to write in the book, and what was the easiest, without spoilers?
Oh, wow. Good question. I think the hardest scene to write in the book was when Flo feels that she's been betrayed by Dey, because she loves him so much. He's kind of like the knight in shining armor that takes her away from all the ugliness in her life, and she loves him so much. And then she realizes that he wanted a relationship with her from the beginning for a different motive, and that I wanted to write that in a way that didn't make him the bad guy, but write it also in a way that broke her heart. And so that was a balancing act that I had to kind of somehow achieve. And I think I've been able to do that, and also how she ends up forgiving him as well was also a very tricky scene to write, because forgiveness is a tough thing to kind of come to terms with yourself, never mind try to figure out how to write it in a realistic way. I think the easiest part to write was Laura and her relationship with the man, because I love music, I write music, so to portray a character who writes songs and who loves music was, to me, an easy thing to do. Yeah.
Amazing. I want to know, I think it's quite possible, but when you wrote this book, a lot of authors get emotionally connected to the characters they're writing. Did you shed a tear or two writing this story?
Did I do that? Did I get connected to the author?
As in, did you shed a tear or two writing the story?
100%, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone said they read my book and cried, and I said, well, that's fair, because I cried when I wrote it, so we're even, kind of thing. I the characters are real to me. I have a son. I produced him in 9 months, like most women, and this book took longer than 9 months. And I produced the characters. They didn't come out of my body, it came out of my mind, but they are characters, they are people I created, they are real to me. What happens to them matters to me. What I need to have certain things happen to them for the plot to unfold, but I go, oh no, I'm sorry, this is gonna happen to you, it's not gonna be good, and I just but I need it for the story. And so they feel completely real to me. And I'm going to offer you something else as well, is 500 years from now, if someone happens to read that book, those people will continue to exist. I'll be gone. My child will be gone. His child will be gone. So what's more real?
Well put.
Right there.
Amazing. Okay, JL, before we do wrap this up, where can people go and buy that book right now? Because people are interested. It sounds like an incredible story. Where can they go and get it?
Well, that's so sweet. They can get it on Amazon. That's the easiest way. So that, I think, just order it on Amazon. I try to make the book not expensive. That's always been my objective for all my books. Someone said to me, oh, your books aren't very much. And then someone else said to me, well, if it's too cheap, you're going to think it's no good. And I was like, okay, well, let's find a happy balance here, because I don't want people to think that. But I also want it accessible. So when they go on Amazon, they'll see that it's priced that way.
Amazing. Well, all I can say is you've been an absolutely wonderful guest. I've loved that conversation. And I hope you just keep writing the stories that you are writing from the heart, and ones that inspire you, rather than, like you said, going down the direct route of in a category, I guess. So I hope that continues. And
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure, and I feel very honored to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honored to have you, and I hope to hear more about Taiwan in the future.
Thank you.
Looking forward to all your writing.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be delighted to send you guys a copy of that novel when it's published.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Halo said she has to go to a meeting, but incredible interview as always. Thank you for the comments. Please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't, and leave some comments either on social media or on the YouTube video. And if you have any follow-up questions for JL, I'm sure we can pass them on and she will happily answer. But thank you all so much for tuning in, spending your Friday night with us. And JL, thank you to you. You've been incredible. So from us here, have a great weekend and look after yourselves. We'll see you all very soon.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.